How's it going, folks? Welcome back to another one of my top 5 videos here on YouTube. With Modern Horizons 2 just around the corner, it got me to thinking I wanted to talk about 5 of my favorite designs from Modern Horizons 1 that I would love to see added to Historic as a format. Coming in at number 5, we have Unsettled Mariner. This is just a good, flexible card that goes in a variety of creature decks, whether they're, just good, honest beatdown decks like White Weenie, or because of the Changeling keyword here, this card also slots elegantly into various tribal strategies such as humans or spirits. A card like this just meaningfully slows down the heavily interactive decks to give the creature decks a lot more of a chance in a way that I think is very elegant and sweet. Coming in at number 4, we have Hexdrinker here. Leveraging the level up mechanic, Hexdrinker is a cheap threat that scales up nicely as you go into the late game. One of the places that I feel a lot of the non-black decks in Historic really struggle right now is with having quality 1-drops. And having a card like Hexdrinker, I think, would go a long way towards making more mid-range green decks potentially be playable. I think this would be a sweet addition that especially pushes mid-range because just the 2/1 stat line to spend 4 mana to get a 4/4 doesn't work very nicely inside of an aggressive deck. So I feel like there's a chance this could help open up some new archetypes without really pushing existing green decks like Gruul, for example. Coming in at number 3 in Modern Horizon cards I'd like to see in Historic is Kaya's Guile. We're getting the cycle of Tarkir commands in the upcoming not archive, historic anthology. They both start with an A. And that got me thinking I really love this as one of the modal cards that they printed inside of Modern Horizons. Just a very flexible card that lets you, gain life against aggro, provide blockers, sometimes impact the board by sacrificing, but also, almost most importantly on this card, I think, is the fact that it can exile the graveyard. Having these kind of effects that are playable in a lot of matches that you can main deck that happen to be graveyard hate can often give the interactive decks a little bit of edge they need against linear graveyard decks that can often pop up in these formats, especially with the Praetors coming alongside Unburial Rights. Fair decks are going to be wanting more ways to be able to interact with the graveyard without having to dedicate a slot to doing just that. Coming in at number 2 for Modern Horizon cards I'd like to see is Dead of Winter. We've seen them slowly introducing via the historic anthologies cards to kind of make this snow archetype happen, but it doesn't feel to me like they've given us anything that meaningfully pushes us into the playable range in Historic for the snow payoffs. And I think this 3-mana sweeper that scales up into the late game would really give a snow control deck that wanted to leverage something like Merit Liege's Slumber, for example, that we got in HA4, the payoff that they needed to say, okay, I'm not just about this threat, but the snow cards also give me the ability to stay alive with a card that's more efficient than a lot of the other options. So this would be a card that I think it would be like a linchpin sort of for making sure that the archetype that they seem to want to push could really get pushed in the appropriate direction to potentially be playable. Coming in at number 1 in my top 5 cards from Modern Horizons 1, I'd like to see added to Historic is Seasoned Pyromancer. We saw Faithless Looting get printed in the Strixhaven archives, and this card kind of pushes in a similar direction to that, in being a graveyard enable, but also kind of providing some mid-rangey value. Similar to the top 5 planeswalkers that I talked about, like Liliana the Veil, this is a 3-mana card. So one of the reasons why 3-mana permanents I feel like are meaningful to push into Historic that are playable is having cards that cost more than 2 mana that are permanents really gives these mid-range decks a reason to go, Do I want to play Lurrus as a companion, or do I want to get a powerful card like Seasoned Pyromancer? And the flexibility that this can provide, where providing you with filtering and also, a wide board. This can equate to 4 power across 3 bodies for just 3 mana. And then, it generates value in the late game as you go along, as you're flooding out in a longer game, generating more tokens from the graveyard. So I think that this would be a really sweet addition to the format for various red mid-range decks that exist that are currently largely dominated by Lurrus as a companion option. What did you think of the 5 cards that I picked out from Modern Horizons 1? Are there other cards from that expansion that you think should be added to Historic that I missed? Looking forward to poking at Modern Horizons 2 spoilers as they come out more, even though I don't follow that format, because it seems like there's a lot of sweet designs. These non-standard expansions seem to be where they really push the design space, which is one of the reasons why I think they're an excellent place to introduce some of these cards into Historic on Arena. And honestly, Wizards, if you're out there, a great way that you could keep your arena players engaged with Modern Horizons stuff is there should really be probably a Modern Horizons 2 themed anthology, and even a Modern Horizons 1 themed anthology with some of these cards in here, where you go back and grab some of these sweeter, more interesting, unique designs and give them to your digital players that aren't quite into paper. Let all of us be excited about spoilers, even if we're not paper modern players. So thanks for watching. I'll be back again real soon with some more live content on Twitch. Thanks for hanging out today, folks.